Ari Lewis Show.
Welcome back to a very special episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports and News Radio. We're going to go live to our correspondent at Citifield for Game 4 of the 2015 World Series, Radio Mike. Radio Mike, how's it going out there?
Well, if you're a Royal fan, you're really, really happy. If you're a Met fan, you're disappointed once again.
Well, it's such a shame for Mets fans out there because Game 3 looked like the New York Metropolitans bounced back. Really a lot of energy, a lot of fire. To first talk about that bat Escobar, the ball going over his head, and it really seemed to energize the Mets ball club. Tell us first about Game 3.
Well, Game 3, Kansas City had 6 hits in the first inning in the third. They were winning 1-0, then Wright hit it in the bottom of the first, hit a home run to bring the Mets up 2-1. But then Kansas City came right back and scored 2 runs. So everyone thought it would be Kansas City's night again, and it was 3-2. And of course, that game was Shabbos. I really didn't follow the game, but the Mets prevailed. Granderson hit a home run after Syndergaard got a leadoff single, and the Mets were on from there, and they won the game 9-3. So they had a lot of momentum going into tonight's game. And, of course, in tonight's game, they were winning throughout. And Conforto hit 2 home runs for the Mets. I don't know if that's ever been done in a postseason game for the Mets. Certainly not in a World Series game, as far as I know. And then in the top of the inning, Murphy makes a big error with first and second. A run scores, and it goes from 3-2 to 3-up. And then the Royals score another 2 runs. Now they're up 5-3. And Kansas City has one of the top relief pitchers in baseball on the mound. So the Met fans don't look too happy, and they look a little bit nervous at this point.
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen? By the way, it's very interesting that what is the score right now at this moment?
Right now, Kansas City is winning 5-3. The whole night, basically, the Mets were winning. They were winning 1-0, 2-0, 3-1. And then 3-2, and now they're losing 5-3 at the bottom of the 8th.
It's interesting. We are getting a live update. If folks out there joining us, Yahoo still has this game 3-2, Mets leading in the 8th. So Yahoo is not updated.
Well, it's very, very interesting. And Ari Lewis always has the top reporters, correspondents around the world, and I'm happy to be one of them. But it's very interesting how everyone was so pro-Cespedes at the end of the season. He's had a really poor postseason, not fielding well, certainly not hitting well. And Murphy was absolutely out of control, hitting 7 home runs, 6 home runs, 6 games in a row. Right now, he's the GOAT. He hasn't done much in the World Series. He hasn't done anything tonight, and he made a huge, huge error in the top of the 8th to let in a whole bunch of runs. So, everyone thought, well, are they going to be able to keep these players, not keep these players? Now I think a lot of Met fans, they don't care if they keep Cespedes. They don't care if they keep Daniel Murphy, especially if they don't win the World Series at this point.
Again, we're live at Citifield with Radio Mike, Game 4 of the World Series. The fans at Citifield, are they still optimistic in any way? Obviously, the air's been out of the balloon since the Mets have dropped this lead, but the motto of the New York Mets is always believe. What's the feeling, the emotion of the Mets fans? Do they think the Mets can pull this out the bottom of the 8th?
Well, I have seen a bunch of them leave the stadium already. Right now nothing's going on with the Mets. It's the bottom of the 8th, 5-3, and it's 2 outs and no one on base. What's going to happen? They have to keep the game tied in the bottom, in the top of the ninth, and hopefully, if they don't get anything this inning, hopefully they get 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth, or they're going to have a very, very disappointing loss.
Yes, indeed. Very few teams try to think 3-1 in the World Series. How often has that happened? The teams come back being down 3-1 in the World Series to win it.
Yes, well, it's really unfortunate. This is 2 blown saves for Familia. He gave up the home run to Alex Gordon in the ninth inning on the first game. If the Mets would have won that, the whole series would have changed. He blew the save tonight again after Clifford walked two batters. It's unfortunate that Murphy did make the error, and then he did give up a hit or two, and the Mets just made out. So it's going now to the top of the ninth, and it's certainly nervous time for the Mets, and a lot of fans are going to be really, really upset after this one.
Real quick, let's talk about Noah Syndergaard. He's the gentleman who pitched Game 3 for the Mets. He's a starter, and he's the one that threw the ball high over Escobar's head. Joe Torre hasn't commented on the pitch as of yet. Now, if the Mets, let's say, drop this game, they win Game 5, Game 6, Noah would be starting Game 7. So do you if he is not suspended, obviously, what do you think will happen with Noah Syndergaard?
Hello?
Okay, sorry about that. We lost for a second. So, as you know, of course, starter for Game 3 for the Mets, Noah Syndergaard, he is the one who threw the ball over Escobar's head. That's the one kind of got everybody riled up. Joe Torre hasn't commented as of yet regarding the pitch. Now, if the Mets...
it wasn't that close, and, I don't think that's a really, really big deal. If he would have hit him really hard or something like that, that would have been a different story. No, I don't really think it's a big deal. The Mets want to show that they have some macho in them and some fight in them, so he threw close to him. So that's baseball.
Right, talk about inside pitching, and he wanted to show that he did not want the Royals to get comfortable in there in any case. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Game 5. In case this does not go well for the Mets, what's gonna happen in Game 5 where the Mets could pull around? Something positive for the Mets fans. Good.
Well, Matt Harvey, he's pitched well. He hasn't pitched great. He's pitched very well. Everything's going to be resting on him. They'd be down 3-1. They would have to win Sunday night. And then they would have to win 2 games in Kansas City. I'm not going to say that's impossible, but it would certainly be a tall battle.
Okay, so looking at some of the stats about teams that have come back from 0-2, the Mets obviously did in 86. The Brooklyn Dodgers beat the Yankees in 1955. That happened as well. 50, 56, 58. It's happened a couple of times. Rare territory, obviously. What about that aspect, being down 0-2, and then they lose tonight, being down 3-1? You talk about odds, obviously not in their favor. What are your thoughts about that as being in New York right now at Citifield?
Well, I don't want to make the Met fans around me too upset, but I think it would be a very tall order if the Mets went down 3-1 to win the next 3 games. They had a lot of going for them when they started the series. Maybe that 4 or 5 day layoff between sweeping the Cubs. That layoff doesn't really help sometimes, and some of the batters are very, very cold. Murphy is not hitting the ball well. Cespedes not hitting well. Arnaud's not hitting well. Wright had a couple good hits last night, driving in 4 runs. Granderson's done very, very well. Conforto hit 2 home runs tonight, but for the most part, they're not getting too many hits. I think they only have 4 or 5 hits on the night. And that really doesn't win you too many baseball games.
Again, we're joined by Radio Mike at Citifield, talking about Game 4 of the World Series. He's there. And for those out there listening, if you want to know how many teams have come back down 3-1 to win the World Series, happened a few times in the Championship Series, but World Series, it has happened 4 times. Last time, ironically, featured the Royals and my Cardinals in 1985. Royals down 3-1 and beat the Cardinals to win the World Series that year. Last question before we go. Talk a bit about this Mets team. It's interesting. There's a great story behind this team because they lost so much money with Bernie Madoff, but it kind of worked to their advantage that they had to retool from the farm system as opposed to going after high-priced talent. So talk to me about that. This Mets team has a lot of young guys, and I think they'll be around for years to come.
Well, they certainly have the pitching. Their hitting lacks a lot. They're going to need some infield help. They could use a second baseman. They might need another outfielder. Cespedes will not sign again with the Mets. Murphy won't sign with the Mets. And at this point, I think a lot of Mets fans would say good riddance. So it's really helped them a lot that they got some of these young players develop their farm system. Now they have really some really great pitchers. Matt's pitched well tonight. They could use another good relief pitcher. That would certainly help them a lot. But they need one or two, maybe even three position players. But they do have a bright future if they manage their team and get a couple of proper players in them. Excuse me.
All right, so there we go. Radio Mike breaking it down for us, not just this World Series, but years to come for the Mets. What's going to happen potentially in the future going into the ninth. The Mets are down a couple of runs. They'll have a chance, but if they lose Game 4, it'll be pretty tall order. As I mentioned, only 4 teams in the World Series history have come back down 3-1. And these 2 games, the Mets would have to win in Kansas City, Game 6 and Game 7 we're talking about, if they can win tomorrow night at Citifield. Radio Mike, thanks for being our correspondent, our World Series correspondent for 2015.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, and good luck to all the Mets fans out there. Good luck to the Mets going into the ninth, and we'll see what happens. But you are more accurate and more updated than Yahoo, so we appreciate that.
Okay, great.
All right, Radio Mike, have a good one. We'll be in touch.